Are there any public comments?
I've got a few. My name's Kirk Allen. I came to this meeting because I understand on the agenda you've got to discuss the ETSB, and there's been some ongoing things, some matters that we've been addressing. One that I would encourage someone to look into is the reporting to the state police. Every year, ETSB files a financial report, and there seems to be some inconsistencies with that reporting of contractual money received. Paperwork reflects a lot more than what's being reported to the state police. Also, I'm not familiar with your Camp 911. My understanding that was a summer camp program that was ran by ETSB, is that correct?
It was a private 501c3, and it wasn't affiliated with 911.
So NIDA didn't run that program?
She ran it through the, yeah, but not as, it wasn't an ETSB program.
Okay, because I've got Camp 911 funds that were paid to out of a United fund that went into a private bank account that's not part of ETSB. And when I asked for all of the records pertaining to that, I got 2 checks that went into a different account. So my understanding, she's doing that as another job or something on the side. Is that what that was?
Yeah, I mean, it was created as a
911 awareness.
It wasn't a job. It wasn't.
No.
She wasn't getting paid to do it. It was a.
Somebody got paid.
That wasn't. Should I speak here?
yeah.
That was money given to camp itself, and those funds were used to disseminate information to all the 2nd and 3rd graders in the whole county. That's one of the monies that we got for that.
I understand what the camp was for.
Okay, that's what those monies were for.
My understanding was that was what NIDA with ETSB ran that program, is what we were told.
No, Camp 911 is a 501c3 program. She did run it, that is correct.
Right.
But it's its own private 501c3.
I understand the C3 side of it, no problem. During one of the previous meetings, we were told that previous equipment that was purchased, one, that there wasn't anything purchased that was not approved. We found several invoices that were signed off prior to the board approval. We were told that it was the previous director that did it. From 99 to 2000, over $45,000 was purchased on radio equipment for other agencies. That's inconsistent with the ETSB statute. On into 03, $134,000 worth of computers for police squads. That is in direct violation of ETSB spending, according to the statute. And then clear into 06, which was not the previous director. We were told there was no equipment purchased, when in fact it was purchased, but it was through a you order it, we'll pay for it redistribution, and that totaled over $80,000, all in violation of the ETSB statute. I have a copy of a draft of your ETSB resolution, and I'd love to discuss it when you get to that point on the topic instead of just going through each point now, but I'll leave that up to the chairman as to how you want to do that.
How do you guys want to handle it?
Wait till we get to it. This way it's all on the same topic, just like how we did the solar stuff.
Okay.
So,
Public comments?
you have the current copy, current draft?
I don't know what current would be. The one I have, I got a couple weeks ago.
Okay, yeah, the one I have says Chad the Village Idiot, so that's the most recent.
What section's that in? Chad,
Oh, I don't know, someone.
Village Idiot?
Yeah, so I just want to make sure we have the current copy.
Well,
So
mine says ETSB Working Draft Ordinance Update.
we'll get to it.
Okay.
So
Any other public comment?
I just had a question as to who requested the watchdogs to come to look into these particular matters this time. Where was the request? Who did it come from in particular?
No, nobody requested me to be here.
No?
No, sir. I've been working on this ETSB matter for a long time. And these are documents I obtained through other FOIAs since the last meeting I was at. where people make claims that I can disprove. My goal is to get you folks to start asking questions and verify what you're being told by people. And we go to verify it and we're finding out that it's not truthful.
Could you repeat for me one more time about the Camp 911 question? The questioning of that?
Well,
Because I know that was done with really good pretenses.
Oh,
I understand that.
oh,
And
the Camp 911 program is
Right.
a great program. It is. There's a national foundation
lot
that
of-
runs that
a
program.
lot of our ex-directors' personal time went into that, a lot of it.
I have no problem with that
And
program.
I just don't like to see that criticized.
I didn't criticize the program at all. Not at all.
Okay,
I'm trying to
okay.
identify the
All right,
funding.
these are just questions I'm asking.
I'm just trying to identify the funding
Okay,
of where it came
Gotcha.
from and where it went.
all right, thank you.
You bet.
Anybody else got public comments? Yes.
I'm John Kraft. My couple comments. I noticed at the meeting that the appointment of the sheriff to the ETSB director, or as the interim director or whatever it is, there was not a quorum of the board present. There might have been a vacancy on the board, but the quorum for that board is 4. And even if there is a vacancy of the board, the quorum is still at 4. There was not 4 members of that board present when he was appointed the interim director.
Yeah, I raised that also, but there's bylaws that the chairman, John Schur, showed me that the ETSB bylaws that say they can, quorum is based on the filled vacancies. I disagree with that being legit, but the chair, John Schur did provide me a document to tell me that I was incorrect in challenging the quorum per the bylaws of the ETSB, which I'm still researching that piece. So do you,
Did you talk with the PAC, the Public Access
not yet,
Counselor?
not yet,
They'll confirm it for you.
yeah, but the chairman, our chairman, board chairman, I have no reason not to trust him in a sense, but he told me I was wrong and showed me the bylaws, which I have that 60-day window to do the PAC, so.
Right, and if
So-
bylaws conflict with state law, then you know what, take precedence.
Yeah.
And if you,
And the ETSB chairman is also here, you know, Charlie, he can confer with me that John was correct with the bylaws.
I assume so, that he was correct. I haven't looked any further than that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know what
I don't-
bylaws you're referring to.
He showed me ETSB bylaws, you would know more, you're the chair of the ETSB,
ETSB bylaws or the resolution that set up ETSB?
the bylaws. He showed me a document that said the ETSB bylaws, and so, but maybe you can help.
No, that's all right. That's what
Explain it.
is, yeah.
so additionally, with the only 3 members there of the board, it's my belief that the sheriff as the ETSB director is a conflict of interest, and that he can't be faithful to both the ETSB and his job as a sheriff. And should those be proven to be conflicts, the acceptance of the second office is an automatic resignation from the previously held office. So I would suggest that somebody figure it out pretty quick whether he holds both offices or whether that quorum did not exist and the appointment is invalid. Because it's a big deal. It makes a difference. When you guys think it makes a difference or not, it makes a big difference. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
It was my understanding that in other places, the sheriffs were the ESTB, ETSB.
They supervise
I
the
guess let me address a few
dispatch.
things. First off, at that special meeting, I brought it to the attention of board members that were there, including Mr. McGinnis, that there wasn't a quorum there. I too was told by the chairman that it was a legal meeting and that they could take action because they only have 5 board members seated and not 6. So that being said, I felt that it wasn't a legal meeting, that they could not make that appointment. And However, from the dispatch side of it, which the dispatchers, the 9 dispatchers are Iroquois County employees, not ETSB employees, that I would oversee the dispatch center to make sure that the scheduling continues, to make sure that that place continues to move forward until they decide what it is they're going to do with the supervisor there.
Yeah, and I was that's what he told the ETSB meeting, so.
I have no doubt you were told that.
Well, and you're, then she's.
Yeah,
taking
there hasn't been anything formally, because even at the, I gotta get my days here now, August 22nd?
Correct.
August 22nd meeting, there wasn't anything on the agenda when they did have a quorum to make any motion or nominations for a ETSB
Yeah, excuse me. I have a
coordinator
hearing too.
or interim
Judge Kinzer's a bit
director.
over hearing too, that's
Okay.
why he's not here.
So there wasn't anything done at that time either at that meeting. Now, the ETSB, and I guess we'll call them bylaws, there's a coordinator, director, and an assistant coordinator / director. And in those bylaws, it indicates that if the coordinator leaves, removed, unable to fulfill the duties, that the assistant coordinator takes on those duties, which is what's been going on right now. Sandy Drake's has been the assistant director / coordinator
It's
for
only coordinator, just so you know.
coordinator.
The director is ICOM, coordinator's ETSB.
The assistant coordinator for the last 10 years. And so she's been the one that has been running the day-to-day operations since August 4. And the coordinator retired.
Okay.
Lyle, you said something about, made reference to other sheriffs in other counties doing both.
That's what I was told.
So, Mr. Kraft, did you have something statutory that said something about the conflict or the sheriff's duties, do you have something that says that he can or cannot do that is statutory?
Well, we know a sheriff or a deputy cannot be appointed to the ETS board.
He's not on the ETSB board.
I understand that.
But the conflict, in my personal opinion, and I can probably drag up some statutory, and I'm not the attorney, so, conflict comes in when, and how can he be faithful to both ETSB and the sheriff's department? You know, what hours is he working with ETSB? The same hours working with the sheriff? And there's other issues involved with, you know, does the ETSB director have a say with pointing the board in the direction on reimbursements to the county or the sheriff's department for the dispatching? What about equipment purchases? Does the director have a say in what equipment gets replaced? And some of them might be in the sheriff's vehicles or in the sheriff's department. All kinds of things.
You've got the AG opinion, you can leave with them if you want.
I can leave an AG opinion here. It talks about a sheriff as a board member. However, a lot of it would also apply to position of director, which I believe the director of the ETSB is also supposed to complete a statement of economic interest as the position of a director, which would also have to include all the other employment with other local public bodies.
Chairman, what we had given them, just so you know, was in relation to some other counties where the sheriff was serving in both the ETS board as well as the deputy on the board. And the issue that state's attorney, he asked for an opinion from the AG, and they gave all the reasons why it was a conflict of interest. And they give a lot of examples in that regard, and some of it ties right into whether it's one position or the other, but that's specifically board related.
So the sheriff was a board member, of an ETSB board member,
And in that one, and a deputy.
and the director?
No, and he was the sheriff and an ETSB board member, and a deputy was also a board member. But when you read through that, you'll see the correlations, even in the position of a director. Your state's attorney could ask the AG for an opinion, and we're confident they're gonna point right to this one on many of the conflicts, because some of the same duties are gonna come into the same equation, even though they're not a board member.
And one of them was being the public safety officer, not as being the sheriff.
Right.
Can we get copies of these for the committee, Mr. Chairman? I'll be happy to walk it in and ask one of the girls.
Well, you don't need to discuss it now. if you don't
No,
want
but I
to.
want it for
We would want
the
it
ongoing
to
discussion.
be able to
But-
read
but
it.
What's the citation?
Personally, I would ask the state attorney to get, ask the AG for a legal opinion on, you know, whether the sheriff can be appointed as in your situation.
Because ultimately, the county board chairman made the appointment, right?
Well,
He made the recommendation.
He made recommendations,
the
but
county board chairman, yes, came to me and said, would you be the interim director? And at that point, I indicated to him that that's a ETSB board decision on who has that. It's not a county board
Absolutely.
chairman decision.
Absolutely.
And, yes, he did approach me and even though I told him that there was an assistant who had been there 10 years that can move into that position until they decide what to do, he was not,
Receptive.
yeah, he was not receptive to that, and felt that, he talked to me actually on 2 occasions. He brought the finance chairman with him the second time he talked to me. And again, the 2 board meetings that they've had, they didn't have a quorum, and I'll disagree with the county board chairman forever on that. And then secondly, it wasn't on the agenda and wasn't discussed, and no action was taken at the August 22nd meeting that they did have a quorum. And the state's attorney has inquired with the attorney general as to whether or not the sheriff can hold the position of 911 coordinator.
Oh, he already asked?
Yes,
Awesome. Good.
He just hasn't got a response
he
yet.
hasn't got a response.
Yeah.
Well, it took over about 4 years to get that, so I think we're good.
And the one thing I guess, I mean, we got time rolling here, this and that, I saw this, there was and it doesn't address the, sheriff being 911 coordinator, but there was an AG opinion, about the county board members serving on it, and in that, it's 96-041. In that, there is an article under
towards the last page.
the Public Officer Prohibited Activities Act as it pertains, and in there it does say that one board member, for counties less than 100,000 may be a member of the ETSB board. And then the last sentence on it says, elected officials are also eligible to serve on that board. So what defines elected officials, I'm not sure, I haven't looked into it.
That opinion I just handed out goes into
More detail on it,
Yeah.
on the cursory search on it.
That's,
So.
you'll find that's a real good,
Oh, yeah,
good one for
I'm
you.
gathering tons of information to help frame.
Well, we were clearly in violation having 2 board members. I thought you guys would be here and jump on that, but I think that's been rectified.
Yeah, that's been rectified.
There were 2 county board members on the ETSB board at the same time.
Yeah, it can't be, I don't think.
probably
the
more than that in the past, wasn't there?
Yes.
And I don't think the chair.
No.
In the past, there was
No.
always just one,
No,
One.
there's
It was
never been
done
more than
to-
one until
un-
just recently.
until the last couple of years.
Yes.
To push people out, whether it's they needed to go or not, there's a different way to handle it, but we're hoping in the next few months to clarify and make things better, but anyway, that's
But-
for later.
The state's attorney has, I talked with him, end of last week, and he made the call to the AG for their opinion on that.
Do you know if he sent him a letter and requested it, or if he just talked to him on the phone?
I don't know if there's like a bat phone, he said something about there's
Red phone,
a state's attorney's hotline or something to the AG,
through the hotline.
but, well, for state's attorneys though, not just, so, I don't know if he did it, and I know he did make a phone call.
Well, as long as you got the floor, why don't you go ahead and give your report?
Alright. 603 calls for service, in August. Our year-to-date is coming up to what it was last year, which was a busy year for us. 4,161 calls so far. This year we had 4,315 last year, this time. 60 inmates booked in August, just shy under 500 for the year, 498. The average daily population in August was high for us, it was 35. That's up, I think that's the highest it's been so far in the 8 months of this year. With the average year-to-date population of 30, length of stay is 19 days. The overtime in the jail was only 116 hours in August. The reason being, even though we have vacations going on, I had mentioned last meeting that I had a correctional officer retiring September 15th. I hired one on August 21st who had left in good standing the beginning of this fiscal year, and that individual came on the 21st, so we weren't having as much overtime the last 10 days of August as we usually do in the past. Still have a deputy off on workman's comp. I've been talking with workman's comp about that, and hopefully we're going to get that rectified quickly here on what the final outcome is going to be. As I mentioned, the correctional officer is resigning on the 15th of this month. New court security officer was hired on August 9th and started. I do have a lieutenant retiring November 30th into the fiscal year, 27 plus years on. He turns 50 in November, so he's leaving at that time. And then 2 of the newest correctional officers that I have, I'm going to have to send to school at the same time, the academy, which runs October 2nd through November 3rd. It's a 5-week class. It's going to be at the new training center, which is in Decatur. But because I've had 4, now 5 in the last 12 months, 3 retirements and 2 resignations, I had to get a waiver on one of those individuals. I've got 6 months from the time of hire to get them registered into a state certified academy. I had to get one of them a waiver for 90 days because we were shorthanded enough I couldn't have somebody gone for 5 weeks. Well, the second one, the Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board only grants 1 extension per year for each agency. So I've already used that up. So I've got to get the second one in the same class as the one that got the extension in. So there'll be a little more overtime in October than usual, but it's because of those 2 having to go at the same time. Other than that, the last thing, and I didn't put it on here, we got the Narcan training for all the deputies is next Friday, September 15th. So for all the corrections staff and all the deputies, so they'll be carrying the Narcan once they get that training done.
Any questions on the claims for him, or any questions for him?
You'll probably notice the food is high, but that's because this year we've been running, I'd say probably close to 10 over a day on daily population than what we did in the past years.
I just had one question on the taser battery pack and cartridge holster.
Yes.
Is that just for one?
It could have been, we bought one for the court security officer, but
Just
everybody
under
carries.
1,500?
Yes, it's the taser and the battery pack and the cartridge and holster.
Okay.
Yes, is that amount.
Okay.
and that was for the court security officer. He had already been previously trained. We didn't have a taser in the courthouse before because the prior court security officer didn't go through the training, so, we got that for this one.
Okay, Mr. Cheatham?
Last month, we were down in Collinsville. I fulfilled my 24 hours of continuing education, which is required by law. So we fulfilled that, got that taken care of. Other than that, if there are any questions on the bills, that's all I have.
Don't see any questions.
Well, I noticed that you bought body bags, and I wanna know the difference between a regular body bag and a heavy duty body.
It's
The way they're made.
the way they're made, the way they're made.
Okay,
Some,
They won't look as bad. If you want me to go into deep,
yeah.
I've used both.
you know,
Some
I
of
have
them
to
are-
ask.
Some of them are a little bit
You
sturdier for a heavier
Yes.
person than, yes.
Got it.
Bill, since we're on body bags, do you have an up-to-date on how many overdoses we've had that have died?
I didn't,
Up-to-date?
I don't, we haven't had an overdose for quite some time, so I'd have to, I mean, as far as, it wasn't like we didn't have last month, we didn't have any last month, but I'd have to figure that back
I
out.
think in July we did.
Yeah, July we did, but we didn't have
Can you
any.
get me a
suicide.
number?
Possibly. The
The
mental.
one we had out here,
Yeah.
no, that was
No.
just a homicide, suicide,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, if you can get a number for me, so I
Sure.
can go back to them. Let them know.
Okay, yep, we can do that.
Thank you.
Yeah. CC me on when you email for the health board.
What's that?
CC me on when you send her the email or the information. Send it to me too for the health, mental health board.
Okay, I'll do that.
Any other questions for him?
Why don't you just send it to the whole committee? We just had this
Yeah.
discussion at management.
Well, I'm
Yeah, we
just
did
gathering
that.
information for the
Okay.
mental health board.
We can do that.
Yeah.
So let's do this, are you wanting just like heroin overdoses or all overdoses?
Probably all, the
All.
opioids.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, alright,
Just what we're dealing with.
okay. We've got a lot of saves in the county.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah.
had a lot, and I don't know how, I mean, I don't get involved in that, I mean, you know, I just hear it get sent out through the 911 center, paged out, you know, possible overdose, and there's a lot of saves, but I don't know who keeps track of that, but I don't know if that's an IMH question or what, but.
No, I heard the same thing at last week or 2 weeks, August's mental health board meeting, that a lot of saves, but some of those saves were, they categorized them as possible attempted suicide to do on purpose, and then the whole fentanyl thing, not knowing their
Right.
dosage.
Right, exactly, so, okay,
It's hard to separate that out.
It is hard.
it is hard.
Anything further? Ms. King?
I'm not taking time.
Yes, we'll do that for you, ma'am.
Okay, we added on the adult side 7 new cases this month. We don't have anybody that we're supervising pretrial. We have 25 sex offenders, 10 domestic violence clients, and we released 7 cases. Total adult caseload is 220. They did 18 investigative reports, and we have 1 person on GPS right now. As far as public service work goes, we added 7 adult clients with 960 hours. We completed 1 adult client with 240 hours, currently carrying 5,390 hours in the adult public service work caseload. Switching over to the juvenile side, we added 3 new juvenile clients. We have 15 pending and closed 10 for a total of 76 juvenile clients that we're supervising. We did 3 juvenile investigations. Got called on 1 kid that we detained. As of the 25th of August, we had 2 kids in detention. We used 29 days this month, and that's between more than 1 kid. And we have 3 clients that are on home confinement curfew. We added 3 clients with 72 hours of public service work completed, 2 clients with 144 hours of public service work with 2,016 hours public service work remaining. They were out in the field for 72 successful contacts, in the office 496 contacts, and total caseload for the entire office is 296. Questions about the report or the claims?
How long, these hours, how much time are they given, is that?
We try to get them worked through as quickly as possible, but a lot of times they're given a period of supervision and they have the whole period of supervision to complete them.
Yeah. Are they helping, I mean, are they working, most of them trying to knock it out, or are they more difficult?
Some of them are very anxious to get it done,
Yeah.
especially the ones that come in with the traffic offenses and the 240
Yeah.
hours. They know they've gotta get at it, so we try to set them up and get them going as quickly as possible.
Okay.
But then we also have clients that could care less if they get it done or not, but that's typical.
Yeah.
So
What are the consequences for not?
those are up to the judge.
Judge.
We just alert the judge when the work is not completed.
I'm trying to look, you can probably tell me really quickly, how are you on, your juvenile confinement budget?
We gotta be blowing through it, but I honestly don't see that.
You don't see that?
All of our claims are done in Kankakee and sent to Anita and Mary Ann. I can answer questions about how we spent the money. I don't usually know balances.
Well, let me show you.
Okay.
Let's see, juvenile boarding. Oh, you're not as bad as you thought.
We aren't, that's good.
Budget remaining.
We are very selective about who we will detain. It's definitely a matter of immediate urgency for us to do that. The
Should we look
judge
at
makes the
this?
longer term, no, I'm good, thank you.
I bet,
The judge makes the longer term detention decisions.
okay.
Is that trending upward, that?
You know, it varies. We had a
Seems
really
like-
busy summer. The sheriff will be happy to tell you that he's visited, 4 or 5 detention centers other than Danville, because we've had kids arrested all over the state.
I see this is to McLean County.
Yeah, we took another officer and I took a girl to treatment in Carbondale yesterday. We're taking kids to Maryville. The treatment facilities are not close, and if they don't have any other way to get there, we're taking them.
I picked up one at 5 this morning in Joliet, so.
He did, yes. We went to
Did somebody have to
Franklin.
take him back, or did he get to stay?
No, he ended up getting released to, I think, a parent or guardian or relative or something, but, you know.
We went to Franklin County the day after the eclipse, thankfully.
And so you'll have to go like to Vermillion to pick up the kid that then take him, well, he does.
Pleasure, yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, we sometimes take the deputy, the only deputy working
Yeah.
off the road for these juveniles.
And the treatment I take it is specialized where we don't have any of those counselors
We don't
in
have anything locally that's inpatient and residential, which we
For
have
Maybe Iroquois
juveniles.
County should.
for juveniles.
Okay, I'm just asking
I'm
because
sorry.
it's,
Maybe
no,
Iroquois County should.
I think they talked about it years ago.
no, I'm just asking because
No,
I'm
that's
on mental
totally
health board and there's funds and trying to, we'll talk more, see what we can do to help.
We have a lot of kids that are following their parents' footsteps and
Yes.
are addicted to more
Oh,
than
I
just.
see it in the food pantry I run.
Any other questions
Okay.
for her?
Yeah,
I need,
there's so many empty positions.
Right. The judges aren't here, Mr. Devine's not here, so you're up, Lisa.
And my report, this month, we collected quite a bit more than last month. A lot of people pled. Collected 56,747, and then collections, they collected and sent to us 5,638, so it was a pretty good month. If you have any questions about my bills or.
See any questions? You're getting off the hook.
Yeah, good.
All right. 911 director?
Technology coordinator.
We'll have to correct that on the.
Right. Here's the board report with all the counts on it. We do still have one TC in training. The other new girl has been on her own for about 3 weeks now. And she's doing very well. I'm not gonna go through and read all these to you. If you have any questions about them or anything else, I'd be happy to answer if I can.
We're used to being read to.
I guess I'm who would be able to read.
Anybody have questions on her report?
Should, and I might just be parsing too much, and you know, we have the titles ETSB County Board Report, but it's actually the dispatch center, which is separate, or are they reporting
What's
to
your
the
official title?
or are they
Say that again.
reporting?
My official
Well-
my official title is the assistant coordinator,
Yeah.
and the ETSB is my boss. That board is my boss. They have the
Yeah.
ability to
I'll
fire me
ask
or
later.
hire me.
I
What's
just,
what is
the question was, you're
Oh,
reporting the numbers
sure.
that dispatch does.
That is correct, yes.
Not the versus the I mean, the dispatch reports the
Technically
ETSB
there would
and
be nothing to report for the ETSB other than like any
what they
equipment
spent
that we
for money and
purchased or something to that effect.
yeah, it's
Which
more
you could get that information from seeing the minutes from the 911 meeting or something to that effect, or hearing the minutes or coming to the meeting. But as far as those stats, those are,
the
I guess they're using
dispatch.
the equipment that the ETSB
Well,
provides, but
But it's the dispatch
those are
center's
the stats
report,
from the
not
dispatchers, correct?
the ETS. Yeah,
That used to be ICOM, they're still called ICOM through their, the union, they're still called ICOM, but
yeah,
so
that's
we
fine.
still refer to them as that,
Well, it's the Iroquois Communications
Correct.
Center. I mean,
Yes.
that the ETSB supports and helps.
correct?
So it's probably it's
ETSB has all the equipment,
yeah,
ICOM is the employees that are under the county.
yeah. It's probably more I'm just parsing out the proper title for the report.
I might change
Maybe the
that.
new director can do that.
Yeah, I mean, and it's I don't know if it's that big of a deal. It's just it sets a standard of who's reporting what, and is it the actual ETSB reporting or is it the ICOM?
I could just make it say the county board report.
No, dispatch. It's just these are the dispatch numbers.
Yes.
These are the calls for service.
Sure.
That's what matters.
And I'd be happy to report whatever you would like, it's not an issue at
Well-
all, I mean, you just let me know what you want, I'd be happy to provide it.
Yeah,
I'm happy with this.
yeah. No, this works.
So if there's anything in addition or whatnot.
Did you have something else? Okay. All right, any other questions for her? Then we will begin discussion on the ETSB.
I think.
So, who wants
Oh,
to start?
yeah.
So do I have one of
Yeah.
the newer ones?
Does it say the village of?
No,
What's it
it's all the
say?
same.
This is the same
No,
thing you've
I'm
got?
just joking because of what was in my inbox
Huh?
and trying to foster discussion. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, I didn't want to. So I passed this out. You know, I've like I said, I researched a lot of different areas, and Ernie can tell you how we did the solar. It worked very well with having input from different folks and what have you. There was a thing in my inbox that I will go through. I was just joking because it, you know, in there it calls me the village idiot and different other interesting phrases, but I will look at it. But I need to go through and highlight to find the changes because it's not, it's just black and white. But like we did the solar, I mean, we went word through word, listened to folks, and then the committee, if we wanted to change wording, the committee just yay or nay as a group what we change, and it seemed to work well. this is not gonna be done today. I mean, the solar thing wasn't, cause we have to work through it. I hope, Vince did call me with some things, and so he's got it highlighted. I did pass this out to the Watseka police chief, and I gave it to the, Mavis, the Iroquois Mavis chief, for them to look it over, to get input, cause they are, you know, the folks receiving. So, with that, Dan did very good at just guiding it through. I mean, if you wanted to take it down, or I can, doesn't matter. Okay. So what I want to do is remind everyone this is a extreme working draft. There are errors and mistakes. I pointed some of those out to you in the beginning, because of over time just drafting it. So when we get to those points, we'll get that.
This draft number 1.
Yeah, this is draft number 1. So definitions. The short title, and remember, the reason this is brought up is our current ETSB ordinance is very, very old and very, very, very vague. And so, from listening to some of the comments you guys have made in the past about errors and things and who has duties and what have you, trying to bring those issues to the table so that we can then fix what is broken and make it so that it stands out. Okay. If you don't like something in here, I'm okay with that. I don't take it personal, so it doesn't bother me. This is to get the discussion going. So the first page, the first page, any concerns, questions on the definition section. You know, there should be discussion about item 3. I threw that in there. Member means government entity who agrees to the annual contract. I threw that in there on purpose to discuss how we bring the communities on board. Because we had the issue with Gilman. You know, we need to make sure we work with the communities, and we have to figure out, you know, but that is definitely something that we have to look at. So, anyone have anything about that first section? John, or wait.
Go ahead, Donna.
My last understanding was they had sent a check but wouldn't sign the contract. Is that correct?
I don't know.
I know they sent a check.
Yeah.
I believe
50% of it.
Yes.
I just know there's issues, and we have to rectify it.
Your comment?
So is that separate from what the discussion here, or Gilman goes, we have to resolve that? Or do you want?
No, it's just something to think about.
Okay.
You know, scratching that definition. Go ahead.
Yeah, in regards to item 3, where it talked about contract for dispatch services, one thing I would recommend is you have your attorney, your state's attorney, get a legal opinion from the PAC.
Yeah.
Or from the Attorney General. One of the big emphasis when this billing all started was, it was ICOM doing it, they stopped, and well, ETSB can't do it, so the county did it and they qualified it under intergovernmental agreement. Intergovernmental agreements are only allowing you to act within the power of those public bodies in the agreement. Neither the county nor those public agencies have the power to bill or pay for dispatch services. And we have confirmed this across the state, and I can tell you there's lawsuits being prepped under False Claims Act to recover this false billing. And it's going to be a huge problem, so I would highly encourage you to get a legal opinion that says, oh yeah, we can do that. Because I think you're going to find real quick, no you can't, because neither the county code, nor ETSB statute, nor any emergency agency statute allows for paying of those services.
Yeah, the state's attorney does have, I did email this, so.
It's not emergency services. They will get dispatched 911 calls. It's the non-emergency is what the contract is for.
I understand that,
Okay.
and as a fire chief, when I get a call, it's an emergency. We are an emergency agency, and even if you want to say it's non-emergency, There's nothing in the statute that gives the direction, that gives you the power to bill for a non-emergency. And that's the point that I'm trying to make and drive home, because this isn't gonna go away.
I thought we had an AG opinion and this was resolved 2 or 3 years ago. I thought we had that worked out. I thought we had a legal opinion, this had been resolved and answered.
On that specific item?
Yes. On contracts with the parties who use the system. Any party who uses the system.
Well, where's that at? Is that in the contract you said?
Yes, we wrote the contract.
Do you have,
Yeah.
I think some of them have them already. Oh, in case anybody else needed. It's.
Oh, that, okay, I thought it was the,
No,
AG opinion, so.
no. We're not that way. Oh, the AG opinion's here for the other,
Okay,
when you get, yeah, I do not know if there is an AG opinion. I would assume if there was an AG opinion, that there would not be a controversy on it.
so, anyway, that piece, we have to continue working out. And like I said, I've sent this to the state's attorney, and to make sure that, one, we have the proper intergovernmental agreements, what have you, and like I mentioned earlier, a lot of this, I looked at different counties and looked at their ordinances that were created after 2010, and threw stuff together. And DuPage ETSB does have a definition about a member of their DUCOM system for how the calls are handled, the non-emergency ones. But there are things in the new bill that talks about dispatch, and the call comes in, they're obligated to handle it, and so we gotta get the current opinion. Surcharge, that's just the definition. Okay, powers and duties. This is the one, this area here has been an issue that I've heard, and going through searching internet and about Iroquois County and 911 and what you can do or what you can't do. A lot of the counties that seem to have a smooth running system write out more expressly what the county board expects, powers and duties. Some of it is regurgitated from state statute, but our previous ordinance was extremely vague, and that caused us problems, such as hiring on a temporary basis. Okay, that was listed as a duty that the ETSB can hire on a temporary basis. That will be removed so that they can actually hire. So anything on, and I'm going to take notes and make changes, and if there's a sticker that everyone on the committee says, no, I want it changed this way and written that way, I will write it down, I will edit it and send out a new copy. So before we turn the page, anything with the wording so far?
Under the 3I, I would include ambulance in that, because that's statutorily one of the agencies listed in ETSB. You got police, fire, but you don't list ambulance.
Okay, on page 2?
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Well, it's my page 2, I don't know.
Okay,
what I have.
item 3.
It's BIII.
Yeah,
Maintain and operate
emergency
an
response,
interoperable-
yeah. I was, wonder if you could cover just, if, I have to look in the state statute with EMS, emergency management system.
Yeah, EMS.
EMS system should work as a cover-all for everyone.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, where John is talking is, if you flip the page,
I printed this off, the emails.
yeah, you got the numbers, which are better. Right here, maintain and operate interoperable radio network. He's mentioned the last sentence. Okay, telephone system for police, fire, emergency response. We need ambulance, but the better wording is system for emergency management services or system. The
Yeah.
services or system?
Medical.
Medical.
EMS, emergency
Medical system. So I'll change the emergency response, or, response purposes to medical system. Everyone will agree that it's okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're gonna change it to EMS?
Yes. Okay, item 4, employ such personnel, necessary and provide for the compensation thereof, implementation, upgrade, 911 system, day-to-day operations. The state statute has stuff written in there about it, but just the past history, I felt the county should have it in their ordinance, since we're gonna be updating the current ordinance. Any issues with item 4, and then 1 and 2 would go under that. And Lyle, you can call a timeout whenever, and we can reset, a time if it gets to the point that people are, and that if the committee agrees. So any concerns with item 4?
They do lock the building at 4:30, so.
Well, I'll leave you with, you watch that part, and then we can come back.
We'll get it done by morning.
That we would.
So are we just reading along? Oh,
Yeah,
we're there.
We're there.
Okay.
Item 4, 1 and 2 go together, so if there's.
So all personnel except for independent contractors are employees of the Iroquois County for purposes of benefits and general personnel policies. So that brings them under the,
IMRF?
right, and the manual?
Yes.
The employment manual?
Yes, which is how they're treated now, but it's not written in that ordinance because it says it's temporary and all that, so. The independent contractors, I saw that phrase in a couple of the,
Right.
just to make sure that
They
if
don't-
someone's hired to
right.
come in to fix stuff, or if they, on a temporary basis, however they do it, that's a slippery slope term, okay?
It is.
But it's in there for discussion, okay? The reason it is a slippery slope is I've worked with a lot of contractors, and it is a way for an entity to create a kingdom. It's a way for someone that wants to abuse the power to bring all of his buddies in and let them collect money, okay? And we are in the state of Illinois, and
Like under the workers' comp is what you're talking about, injury and other
injury
things like that,
and
right?
stuff like that, so
So we
it's-
wanna be
it's-
very clear that they are general or independent contractors.
But we need to if we have that phrase, we should discuss how an independent contractor can be hired and all that, or a time limit. The exceptions could be a crisis happened and you need to bring someone in for a short term, not to let your brother have a job forever. And I've seen the abuse of it in the federal government system. So that's stuff that you guys should circle it, chew on it, and we have to come back whether that should stay or not.
So your reference to an independent contractor would have nothing to do with a operator, dispatcher, or a coordinator or director?
Correct. The only thing I foresee is if there's a crisis or something happens and you have to bring someone in with the know-how for a short term, I don't know what that could be, what could cause that, but the one, I'll have to find which county had it, but it was basically for that purpose.
Well, what
So-
about in the case of we're short of personnel and we've got somebody from Newton County who says, hey, you know what, I can work 2 shifts, I'll work my shift in Newton
Such
County,
as-
come over here. We don't want them on the pay, we've gotta make a thing for a temporary.
Yes.
Or
Or through-
part-time, or.
Who's the temp
Of
hire
course, then
folks?
we get into the union,
Manpower.
Manpower, you know, those are
Right.
independent contractors, and I've had, at least on the military side, when I had some temporary, I mean, we had temporary folks that came in and then they were gone.
Right.
It was well, it helps, so that's just something to think about, okay? That's why I said this is gonna take, you know, a little bit of
Time.
time, but it has to get done, cause we need to start going down the path, transparency in the path of professionalism. But those employees are already treated as Iroquois County employees. They already are, it's just not written. So that's what that does. Item 2, the ETSB shall have the exclusive hiring authority for the hiring, discipline, termination of such personnel. That is something to chew on. Do you want the ETSB to have that, or do you want the county board to have some say?
No.
You know, the director, but, you know, the ones that the counties that only have 1 dispatch center have that type of wording. The counties that have 2, 3, 4 dispatch centers, each dispatch center is its own thing, and they have their own geographic boundary, and that ETSB is not involved in their hiring or firing, they're just involved in providing funding and support and allocation of the state funds, so, or the taxes that come from the phone system. So, item V, the next one, the delegate. Yeah, I saw that too, to put a space in there. Delegate day-to-day operations and duties, including the implementation of budgeted expenditures to ETSB officers or personnel. Item 4, remember this is all powers and duties. And we have to go back and, you know, hopefully Jim Devine will look at this and then go back and compare to make sure it still lines up with statute. Authorize the expenditure and payment of any funds Illinois law may authorize the ETSB to control for any purpose that the law authorizes such funds to be expended. This is one of those phrases that's already in the state statute. But I feel some of the state statute needs to be reiterated so that people that run this will have our county ordinance. And it's done twice, because I've already experienced where I didn't know that's what's in the state statute, I was just looking at the county ordinance. I've already experienced that with another department that I'm working with.
And make a suggestion on
Yes, sir.
that example where it is in the statute, if you, in whatever you do to adopt, if you put the actual statute in this, then people know exactly where to go to find that language.
That
And
will
that,
work.
it's a
Yeah.
priceless tool to stop what you just described as happening.
Which is 750 ILCS.
Yeah, I'm just putting note here, add actual. Because what I still need to do is go through and pull the references and statute just in add actual statute verbatim, yeah. And remember, at the time I was pulling a lot of this off, the new statute is online now, but it wasn't, it's still, the old was still on there, but it took about 2 weeks and then it was up. Okay, item 7, perform any other duty or functions may be authorized by the Iroquois County Board by ordinance, resolution, intergovernmental agreement, or other enactment. This is to help, help to make sure that they are following the county board's intent. If the law allows other areas in the county says we want you to do this, but they're not doing it. It's not required by law, but it's authorized by law, and we want them to do, you know, this puts the wording in there that it's a reinforcement. It's just reinforcement. It seems like history of Iroquois County is we do what we want. Each entity does its own thing, and so, and like I said, I may just be repeating certain things that are common knowledge, but I just don't trust government to make sure we do what's right. But this is also to make sure the ETSB understands that if we pass an ordinance resolution giving them the authority to do something, it falls on the county board. And it's to make sure that they're not just doing things on their own without county boards. So, powers inferred, the ETSB may exercise any additional power or duty necessarily implied. Again, it's somewhat repeat. So, any thoughts on those last few sections? What you don't like, what you like? Any feedback, please?
Well, on the powers inferred, back to what the chairman said earlier with non-emergency calls. When you read the ETSB statute, it outlines that every emergency agency is required to keep a landline. And that's for non-emergency calls. In the criminal code, it outlines that making calls to 911 that are not emergencies is a crime. When you have a call that's non-emergency, what should happen is the dispatchers, through their training and expertise, be able to say this is not an emergency. You need to contact the agency direct. Because they're not there to dispatch non-emergency calls. They're there for the purpose of dispatching emergency calls. And the statute requires us to have that phone number, that landline, for that purpose. So back to powers and duties, and your powers inferred, your power is to dispatch emergency calls. And that's the whole purpose of ETSB. And over the years, we've gotten way away from the intent, which created that much more burden on dispatchers, taking, for, I don't know if you dispatch or not, but
I do not.
if you've ever sat in there, you know, some of the calls you get, that dispatcher should not have to be dealing with that. Ma'am, sir, this is not an emergency. You need to contact your local fire department or your local whoever for
Which
those
is
non-emergency.
really taken away from those that are needing the help.
Correct. And over the years, they just dispatch everything, and that's why we've gotten into the mess that we're in today, in my opinion.
What
So-
happens when you have, I apologize, what happens when you have volunteer fire departments where you don't have someone there to take a call? Or you
Well-
have the police departments who all their calls are forwarded to here because there's not someone always on. What happens in that case?
In those, as a volunteer, dispatch has my personal cell number as the chief. At least that's how they do it in our county.
I see.
That's how it should be done.
When it's not manned, we have, I think one volunteer department has a full-time person that mans the phone.
Sure.
But more often than not, the non-emergency goes directly to a landline that we give them, whether it's at the station or whoever.
Someone's there to.
Right, and when I'm out of town, we have a phone tree that manages that. But the non-emergency calls was just out of control. If you were to, I don't know if you guys allocate or track those, non-emergency calls are, there's a lot of them.
4,434 in August.
How many?
4,434, did I read that right?
Year to date,
For if you're looking at.
29,000,
Yeah.
basic 29,000 non-emergency
4,000
calls,
non-emergency calls?
and
In
911 calls, 8,000.
How do you stop something like that?
Well,
Some of those are also considered,
Change of-
the coroner,
change of-
animal
yeah.
control, and, I mean,
Oh,
yeah, change
Yeah.
of quarters, those
Yeah.
are all non-emergency calls.
Yeah, ambulance change of
On
quarters
this
is,
particular report.
yeah, ambulance change of quarters, there's,
change of
I mean,
quarters,
don't get me wrong, there
16.
are a lot
Oh,
of non-emergency,
yeah.
absolutely, but
But
in
there are-
that number, there's a lot of,
yeah, but it's not, I mean, there's 29,000 non-emergency, we got the
Yes.
3,000 change of quarters and the
Yes.
quarter, I mean, and
agree.
it's a smaller, it's under 5,000,
you're correct, yes.
so,
my cat in the tree is not an emergency for 911.
yeah.
Who do you send them to then?
Well, that's a great question.
That's-
There's not any statutorial direction. As a volunteer, We always try to help in the community to take care of that stuff, but it gets to the point where, and I'm using that as an extreme.
Tell them to call the fire department. They've got a ladder truck.
But
That's
that
how it-
example,
That's how
yeah,
it started, we had a
Yeah.
ladder.
yeah. But that example is something that the county board, you can write it in here that non-emergency calls will be routed to the chief or to whoever. It's not the dispatch responsibility, and that's part of the perform any other duty or function that, as may be authorized, but it's also, or by us telling them, you're not going to do this because we want to focus on emergency, but that's stuff to
It
think
will-
about.
It
I
will
guess
take,
I would say, I would not use the word routed to, I would say directed to.
Directed.
yeah.
So
And
that's,
it'll take time for that adaptation, but, and the gal, she asked a question, how do you stop it? Some of the calls, and for us where I'm at, we have 90% of our medical calls are to government housing. And I would say 50% of them are non-emergency.
Guess what? In Iroquois County, we don't have any Section 8 housing.
God bless you. Well,
We don't.
what we,
We'll try.
what sent a message was during our assessment in the field, we got a confirmation that it was non-emergency. We turned it into the state's attorney for prosecution, and they started prosecuting non-emergency calls. And that message went out so fast, it literally wiped out half of those non-emergency calls in the first 6 months. Because they knew, if it's not emergency, don't call. And that was one way of addressing that issue. That's up to you guys and your state's attorney.
for the powers inferred, did you have wording or were you just commenting?
I was just commenting in that
That
regard.
good part, I just wanna make sure, cause I'm trying to capture notes. Okay.
That's what I'm, about how to shut down non-emergency calls, your question, Ann.
Oh, okay.
All I said was what we did was,
Prosecute.
when we did an assessment, we identified that it truly was not an emergency and they admit that. That's a false 911 call, that's a crime, and our state's attorney prosecuted them for it. They spread the word real quick, hey, don't call, cause you're gonna
Yeah.
get
Yeah,
prosecuted for non-emergency calls.
That I want to.
let's stop it real quick.
It stopped every bit of 50% of it.
Wow.
Okay. We're coming up to section 3, okay?
How long do you think it'll take to go through?
It's up to, well, we can,
Do we want-
I can do a cursory if you want, I mean,
Why
you
don't
make
we-
the call.
Why don't we got a little bit of time yet, why don't we do a cursory, and then if you got any notes you wanna interject, we can hash them out later, but that way we get your input while you're here.
Or I can give you my email, but, okay, membership of the ETSB. If there has been a sore point amongst board members, past, present, whatever, it centers around this part. And last month I asked for you guys to really focus on this part. I pointed out that I erred with the ICOM rep because ICOM doesn't exist as a board. That was shut down, and my mind was thinking how multiple dispatch centers that are separate. And so that's the one that I said, maybe we ask the hospital IMH to nominate someone to represent their interests. So, but when talking with the fire chiefs, and I talked with a couple village members, they liked the fire chiefs liked the fact of having someone from Mavis on there. The police chiefs liked the fact of being able to nominate someone to, and then the one village personnel I talked to from Clifton liked having the ability to have someone on there so that their concerns are heard, compared to how it's been done with.
My question would be, a mayor or village president being an elected person, would that fall under the same category as the sheriff being on there?
Well, it doesn't say that the mayor or village president has to be on there. They get to nominate someone that they feel will represent them.
But an elected official probably shouldn't be on there, is that what
We
are
need to
getting from the
check.
Attorney General's opinion, or?
Well, that's a
Cause
question
we may have to
be
put that
answered.
wording in there saying if they're an elected official, they can't, but, I know DuPage and a lot of the counties up north, not saying that they're doing it right, because, but a lot of the towns, the mayors, it's either a mayor or a council member that represents that city to the ETSB. Because,
Here's the issue you'll run into when you do that. When you pursue the intergovernmental agreement contracts, now you have mayor, who whatever the title is, if they're in a voting position here, they're also in a voting position here, and you've created a conflict through that process. So that's something to give consideration to. Also, under A, that very beginning, the way it's worded, the 9 members appointed by the county board upon the nomination of the chairman of the county board. The way that's worded is, every time you have a new county chairman, you're gonna appoint 911 board members. And 911 board members are already serving terms by statute. You can't change that every time you have a new county board member.
So
well,
it
I
just
did
needs
address
rewording.
later, and maybe we'll get to that, we may just have to fix some wording, but I did address, terms and that they will
Change
serve for
wording.
that long, and, may have to change the wording. The intent of this is, with the consent of the county board, which the United Counties Council of Illinois, that big red book, around, I think it's page 30 or 35, it talks about the county chairmans, a lot of law, state law gives them the power to appoint without consent of the county board, but they recommend that it's always done with the consent of the county board. And so
Did you
that's,
say the state law says that?
there's some
VUIs.
state laws
Uniform.
dealing with like, the 708 board says the county chairman can appoint, doesn't say with the advice and consent of, it just gives the appointing authority, and so they recommend for better transparency, for better openness, that the county board consents to the appointment so that it's not perceived as being stacked. So,
If state law allows the county chairman to appoint, then it doesn't matter what any
This-
subsidiary body says, that
this-
they can't take the chairman's power away from
The
it.
state law.
But that's not the case in the ETSB.
no, it's not the case on the
Right,
ETSB,
I'm just
so that's
talking
why,
about what
exactly.
United County Councils.
Yeah,
said.
they cite, a couple of them, and so the practice is across the state that the county chairman just did it all, and they recommend against that where allowed, so that there's no apparent conflict, and we've had that issue. I mean, I don't wanna go into that, but we've had that issue, and we need to not have that issue.
Kingdom building.
So, and yes, you can cite examples where it's a good thing, I mean, but it's too easy to abuse.
Madigan.
Yeah.
I'm gonna interject, may I?
Yo, anytime.
Interject here in this section, and I don't see it, I wanna advocate for a representative of agriculture who has knowledge on chemical spills to be on that board, chemical problems, anhydrous, things like that, a railroad chemical spill, because we do have, we're largely agriculture, and in my opinion, the biggest disaster we could have in this county would be ag-related right now, unless, we have a derailment in Crescent City.
Well, but that's still
That's not
chemical.
even funny, yeah, and that was still
Okay.
chemically related, so I'd really, and I know crop production sends one person to school to deal with their chemical, what to do in case of it. So I don't know, maybe there's a Mavis member who is trained like that.
Well,
Maybe there is,
we need to, like, under the ICON rep, that needs to be changed. We can put wording in a public representative that has training in
ag-related.
ag-related. I don't know what we have to come up
Yeah.
with the right definition,
Every
but,
police personnel or ex-police personnel has extensive hazmat training.
but I know some private grain elevators will send someone through, cause
They
they
do.
deal with it right then and there too.
Absolutely.
But, so, or what you're saying is you're wanting someone on there that has hazmat experience dealing with agriculture, the
chemicals.
chemicals, anhydrous, and
Because they know what the needs are, they know what the dangers are. If they've been through the school, they're gonna know what the quick fixes are, the cat litter business, the, you know, stuff like that, the dangers, how to reduce, exposures, hopefully. I think they bring something to the board.
I would suggest in that regard an operations level, no less than an operations level in hazmat.
yeah.
No less than what? Operations level. So someone who deals, who handles chemical.
Right, your ag, you know, your crop production folks, typically one or two of those people are what's called incident command training in hazmat versus operations versus awareness. Most police officers have awareness training.
Right.
They have it regularly.
But you got the guys out there loading the trucks,
That's-
but sometimes they're also putting it on, sometimes they're also operators.
But from an operations is a response, it's a
term.
standard that says I'm an operations level, I can go up to this point on this situation, then I have to have higher training of an incident command for them to go to the next step.
Correct.
So
But operations would be
no less
a
than an
minimum.
operations level of hazmat experience or training.
That sounds reasonable to me, cause they're hands-on, they know.
And we could replace, I mean, again, this is the part where the committee has to give me the thumbs up for me to change that part. We have a spot, you know, underneath the mayor's, you know, the icon that we can put a public,
You'll have a spot under county sheriff, because when you finish that one won't be able to be there based on the AG opinion.
well,
It'll be a void.
Well, we're still gonna see what Jim Devine finds
Yeah.
out with that.
and plus it
Well,
doesn't
this
have
is
to be
for
the sheriff.
ETS board though.
Yeah, yeah, and this doesn't have to be the county sheriff on there, just, but,
Does this board, have anything to do with making decisions with, money?
yes,
So,
this is the ETSB board.
so these people, you know, that have all the knowledge like you're speaking, are they going to make decisions for the taxpayer?
They're gonna make decisions on how to operate the emergency telephone system.
And we can't have more than one board member on there?
Correct.
To make, you know, to represent
One county board member.
taxpayer.
No, it's right here in the state statute.
One,
Yeah, I
no,
know that, but it just
Yeah.
doesn't make sense because I think,
that's the AG
You know.
opinion, and that wording, there's some sections above and below in that area has changed, but that wording that Effingham County is still under, cause I called and asked how come you still have one, and they, because of that AG opinion.
yeah,
It's
that just doesn't
that-
make sense.
No, that's where, through the county chairman, he can ask Tom Bennett to amend that law. But that's where later on you will see that I'm trying to build in some county board oversight, but we have to,
Because we have to protect the taxpayers'
Yeah.
money too, you know, and
So-
if they don't have an interest in it.
and that's where, you know,
They are taxpayers, they do
yeah,
have
and that's where, you know,
Not every-
mayors or village presidents or trustees or a representative that they all say, you know, hopefully. So the question is, scratch out the ICOM rep, and,
put in ag rep.
I don't know if ag rep's right.
I just said that.
Yeah,
You can call it
a,
operations level response, ag response person, you can call them what you want.
a person, a public representative that has no less than operations level hazmat. So that would give the county board chairman the ability to actually nominate two people without having to work with the fire chiefs or the police chiefs to, and that helps Barb too, because then it gives the county board another say if we add in that. As far as the county
I
chairman.
guess I would have a concern of spelling out exactly who is on it and saying there's gotta be one of this, one of this, one of this. Maybe put, maybe up to so many on there from each category, because it could be that when a position comes open, sometimes people don't wanna get involved. And if you can't find somebody to take a position with that qualification at that time, maybe the next time around, there'll be two people with that qualification that'll take it, but
But this is already defined. I mean, not this
I think Lau's talking about if we
specifically,
can't find someone that's willing with the operations level hazmat training.
Oh.
Right, well, even, you know, when he was looking for ones to fill positions now, finding someone with, emergency management stuff, you know, people were, nope, we don't want it, nope, we don't
Well,
want
I
it.
will say,
there's background.
Well,
yes,
yeah,
I,
but-
There's
when
background.
I,
But you don't, you gotta account for that in the future, just because we're, you know,
yeah. Well, hopefully we can change the image of the county.
well, and, you know, we wanna try to get as many as possible, but if you make it mandatory, it may
Okay.
make it where then you're gonna have openings that can't be filled.
Yeah. Write down what I think is your thought. Write down that verbiage, because that would be something we would stick in as a separate item in that section about what happens if no one with operations level, you know, we need to separate, but I think we should put down, but
We want
Yeah.
the categories that we want them to come from, but we maybe don't wanna get too specific as to,
Well, what's the wording
so
in the
first,
statute?
well, before we, to back up, because we're on two different planes, I want to make sure that this committee is okay with scratching the ICOM rep and put in a public representative that has no less than operations. Do we want,
I'm all right with
Yes.
okay, because that's how we did the solar thing and it worked great too. Okay, so scratch.
Yeah, from what he said, it might be a good idea to leave some wiggle room
And
to
that's
make
where,
sure that you can keep the board.
yeah,
That makes perfect sense.
create the verbiage for me so we can
Yeah,
write it down.
I'm thinking
And
about
it
that.
and it doesn't have to be now, just
Yeah.
before we,
Considering at most two, which would allow some fluctuation for some of the statements.
mhm.
And some of these ones might have to be at most two,
Yes.
so that you have some of that room to make sure you keep the board full.
That, yeah, write that,
Yeah,
And then-
I'll try and
email or whatever,
tie it
and I
together
can,
so it's nice.
and I can put that in a little blurb for the next one I email out saying, this was a suggestion, I'll highlight it out,
Is
but I
it,
like that.
is it my, did I dream this, or is there something in the
You watch
statute
we got just a couple minutes, so if there's something.
that says there has to be one from column
Okay.
A and one from column B, and
Yes.
there is, yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
So we gotta
It's
comply
statute,
with that.
yeah, the statute does say this arena.
That's where it all started.
That's where it's all started. Okay,
Is there anything that we wanna just make sure we
yeah.
hit today, cause we got. 15
Those of you
minutes.
that have read through and saw something, go ahead and point out and just tell us where you're at so we can adjourn and do this again.
Page 4 in your eligibility, all members shall reside in or represent residency. The statute outlines one member has to be a resident,
Yeah,
but to make it more restrictive would be in violation of statute, and it also will tie your hands. You may have somebody right across the line that has expertise that might be able to fill that void.
yeah, where he's at, if you just turn the next page after where we list out police, fire,
Where are we at?
mayor, you'll see eligibility, okay? On here,
Under four,
yeah, this
B,
B, item B,
4.
And you're also gonna run into fire protection districts that go across the county and.
Well, that's what I was
Yeah.
thinking about, cause I think we do dispatch some, I don't know.
Eligibility just under an X.
I must have
You
a
might went too far.
Tie your hands to
no, you
residency.
actually have a better copy,
Do I?
because
You got the numbers
the
over
numbers,
here.
the one I emailed you, I added the numbers to. It's the same wording, but
Bottom.
that's what everyone will get, is the one with the numbers.
Doesn't
This
the
way you can
county-
say,
Doesn't the county board have to live in the county?
yes.
Well, yeah,
get
because you have to
elected.
represent
Yeah.
your,
Yeah.
So-
How is that different from that?
Well, the state statute, this is how that
I guess the
verbiage.
state statute doesn't really
Yeah, state
matter, so
statute,
never mind.
the public citizen has to be a county resident, obviously the county board member. I wrote in, because I've heard, why can't we keep things in the county, all that. Do you wanna restrict it to the county, or do you wanna restrict it
I think
to-
restricting it to the county might actually have somebody in a fire protection district that is partially in the county, but that person may live just outside the county, that would restrict them from representing that district.
So I can scratch that if everyone, I mean, if we want to open it up to be able to actually get experts, you know, especially like the ag thing, they could live in, they could work at Cissna Park, but maybe
Well,
not
what he
live-
just defined is still there, unless I'm reading it incorrectly. Reside in or represent
an entity. Yes, the represent the entity deals with boundaries of fire protection districts and what have you that cross over.
So if they do not live in the county yet represent something in the county, then they
An
still
entity,
qualify underneath what it says.
so if they work for Donovan Co-op, but they live in Newton County,
Or just in St. Anne across the,
Yeah.
yeah, like something like
So
that.
I think it's still open there, but.
yeah, but to make things
I'm not-
clearer, because that is the intent, is if the entity is in the county, then,
And we do dispatch, like, what, when you get down to Ford County, don't we go a little bit over the line? Doesn't that get kinda shady there,
It
Rankin?
would get transferred to that
It
county.
would get transferred to that county?
Yes. Same thing with like Fallville Fire
Yeah,
I mean, we
over
could,
in Ford County.
I can
Oh.
cross out,
we don't dispatch, then you
We don't
transfer the
dispatch them
call.
to that location, no, we transfer.
I mean,
At this point, I'd have to think about that more. I don't think there's anything wrong with it that does open it up for not necessarily residing in, cause it says or, it doesn't say and, it says
Yeah.
or.
we can,
So-
I can get rid of the reside in, or, you know, and
Yeah.
just put
I
all members
don't have
shall
a problem-
represent an entity
Yeah,
that's in the county, but, or
Yeah.
just scratch it and just leave,
Anything else?
so,
So we
chew
put,
on that one.
If I could jump to removals for cause,
Yes, sir.
you outlined two-third majority vote. That's inconsistent with the state statute.
Yeah, the state statute, says majority vote, of the county board, and that was my question to talk with Jim Devine, if we can go,
So is
if
that?
we can go stricter.
Yeah, if you can go stricter, is there
To
anything
make-
wrong with being more strict? If that's a minimum standard or it's the.
That's the
max-
question I
That's-
have.
The standard says a majority vote, so if the majority says we wanna terminate, you can't pass something that says, well, we're gonna take that right away and make it, you gotta have one more
Well,
vote to do it.
I mean, obviously, the county board would be voting on this, and
I
I
understand.
hear ya, cause I
But
know
if-
that.
If Divine looks at that, he'll tell you it's a
That's what I'm
majority,
waiting
it's
for.
not gonna be two-thirds.
And you'd be tying the hands of a future board,
Yeah, well,
which,
that always happens, look at
Yeah,
the
in
stuff
everything
I
we
inherited
do.
coming on.
right. And
So-
there's nothing, believe me, I know this, that you can write in a contract or a document that is gonna be relevant in 25 years. I mean, it just is not gonna happen.
Cause we will have to put verbiage in here about subject with state law, you know, if they change it, to help create fluidness, that if the state comes in and says, you don't, whatever, that it can be anyone.
Under appointments,
So-
you've got appointments in 2017.
Oh, yeah, it's got future.
Members shall terminate on November 30th. We already have established timeline board terms now by state statute. You can't redefine them and start over.
When I called DuPage when they recreated theirs, because I asked, because they had it and they restarted, and they said they were allowed to, because they passed a complete new ordinance to
If
terminate the
I would make
board.
one suggestion.
Well, they
to
terminated
everybody,
the
ask
board.
2 questions, says who with what proof.
Yeah.
And then make them provide you documentation to support what they said, because that's not what the
Yeah.
law says.
Well, the county board, terminated, but no, that's, we need, that's why I hope Jim will look at this too.
I hope so too.
Well, he always.
Well, he will,
Yeah, he will. I mean, that goes without saying.
once we get closer.
And I know you're pressed for time, I'll jump forward. Under the listing of chairman, the county board shall designate one of the ETVS members to serve as chairman. Even under Robert's rules, every public body or committee, that committee votes for a chairman of that committee.
Yes.
And you're taking that away from them, and I would not encourage that at all.
Where is that?
This is, if you remember last month,
Number four.
Yeah, if you remember last month, I said this is, because I have it marked and I told everyone, you know, you need to look
Oh,
at this.
right.
This was trying to defer to those that want the chairman to have some more power to help protect the public interest. And a handful of the counties that I surveyed, that the chairman of the county board does, and then the committee picks their own. I would personally prefer that that committee pick their own chairman, but in writing this and trying to balance people's opinions and to get discussion, that is why I mentioned, you know, for you guys to really look at that part, because
I don't care
You
if we
know.
make Abraham Lincoln the chairman of the
Well,
county board, I'm never
it's-
gonna agree with giving that kind of power to just one person.
no, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that, but I know there are some on the county board that,
I know that
and
too.
so I'm trying to make sure people's opinions are heard and thoughts, and then we go from there.
Under number 2, powers and duties, the chairman shall have general supervision and authority. You're given authority to one person instead of the board, and you're gonna run into the same problems. And besides, earlier in this, it said the ETSB has the authority over the day-to-day, you know, operations. But here, it seems to take that away and give it back to one person, and I wouldn't recommend that.
Yeah, there are a few things,
You already said that.
yes, I mentioned that
Cause
part.
I've already got a note.
It's noted, because I mentioned it, such as item B in that same section, you know, there's complaint about how come performance reviews weren't done right, weren't being done yearly. It puts some onus on the chairman that we are expecting him to make sure it's done.
Right.
And then if he's not doing
Doing
it,
it,
then we can
can
remove him.
remove them. So it's making, so some of this is to, man, I can't handle my pen. Like I said before, some of this is to make sure that someone's held accountable.
And I
But
don't,
we have to balance it with, like what John was saying.
standing committees and work groups, I don't recall if it was in here or not, but I think we should, that the county board members should report monthly to, I don't know, either the board or a specific committee.
Yeah, well, we should put it
Is
in
it-
here that they report to,
Right.
I mean, the practice has been to the judicial and public safety, but, that was raised as to why we have the authority to talk about this, but the history, like Jim Devine said, is that they have been reporting here, so,
But we,
Wait,
for a long
but
time, we didn't have
We're
any.
gonna have to wrap it up. Let's see.
Real quick, last thing I got, boss, I appreciate it. Under secretary, I think you'll find if you talk to the state's attorney, the Iroquois County clerk has statutory duties, and you can't dogpile her to be the clerk or the secretary for
Yeah.
ETSB.
yeah, that one, I know, the treasurer secretary, that one came specifically from DUCOM, and it questioned me.
Well, and,
But reports should be turned in to them for record keeping.
but, yeah, and that came
So-
up with something else in previous years. An elected official cannot have new duties forced
Yes.
upon them.
Yes,
Right.
yes. So,
Right.
Except for the sheriff, which makes no sense. They can
Yeah.
adapt and
Well,
implement.
Actually, that's how it
That's
came
how
up,
he got to
something
be a
that
director.
was going to, that they wanted him to do in the past, and they looked into it,
Okay.
no, you cannot make him do that.
Actually, the AG opinion says you can and gives the case law to it.
feel
It's the
free.
only one in the county that can have duties assigned by the board increased.
Okay, just the closing, thing before we do the motion to adjourn. Feel free to email me if you see stuff, hey, look at this section, type out what you would like to see, and I will do that, or call me. Just remember, when I send out the update to everyone, do not do the reply to all, you know, because electronic meetings, all that stuff can occur if you start discussing this as a whole group, okay? You can email me individually to say, hey, I want this discussed. Because the electronic OMA applies.
Did he get one?
Yes, I
Well,
think.
thank you, gentlemen,
like
for
that.
your input.
Thank you.
And feel free to email me other stuff too. I mean, I'll take it. With the solar thing, we had folks for and against it, and it worked great to get as much input as possible.
Is there any old business?
Move to pay the bills.
We have to ask about new business first.
Oh,
Order the
we
claims.
went out, we went out.
Now, Donna,
Move to pay the claims. Second. Where did he go?
Crow,
he had to leave.
Yes.
Curtis,
Where did he leave?
oh, McGee,
What you
Yes.
need to do?
Awful,
Yes.
Whitlow,
I-
Yes.
McGinnis.
Claims, yes.
Aaron's.
Pay them or approve?
Approve them.
They aren't finalized until the county board.
Both of the above.
Just check.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Oh.